Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. We praise Adonai, our God, creator of the universe, judge of truth. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age. From innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Death has taken our beloved Marilyn. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation, in their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. For Marilyn's love that united in life in which death cannot sever. For her companionship that was shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought joy and happiness, and are now but precious remembrances. For all these and more, we give our deepest thanks. The words of the 23rd Psalm. Adonai roi lo exar bino deshiar bitseni al meimanu chochenachaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni v'magleit tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salamavet lo irara ki eta imadi. Shivtecha mishantecha hema yanachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai dishanta v'shemen roshi kosir levaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai lo'orech yamim. As its words are familiar to many of us, if you care to join in. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to tear down and a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, and a time to dance. A time to throw stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embraces. A time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to discard. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. I don't know how many years ago it was that I was on our Hakafa canoe trip with Marilyn. We were talking about the other day that I remember quite well coming off the river and Marilyn being so frustrated with Bob because of something that he was doing that she just gave one of her looks, what I can imagine. And I was thinking about that as I was going through some of the readings here because I knew about, I've known Marilyn for a while. I had the honor of performing the ceremony for Bob and Marilyn a couple years ago. And I know how she felt about God and God language. And we talked a little about that the other day, and to be standing up in front of you as a facilitator of this service, on the one hand, doing the words that we use, on the other hand, knowing her ambivalence, I was just picturing her face coming off of the canoe. Marilyn, I apologize. It was author Cassandra Clare who said, "We live and breathe words." Marilyn loved words. She was a master wordsmith who loved the turn of a phrase or a good pun. Crossword puzzles and Scrabble were part of her diet. And God forbid if you used bad grammar or even bad facts around her. A few of Marilyn's high school teachers could attest to how little patience she had, even back then, for people who do so. Marilyn really did live and breathe words. As an editor, as a thoughtful friend who gave spot-on advice, as the beautiful human being whom you all loved and who cared so much, and about whom she cared so much. And now that she's no longer living to breathe the words she embodied, we must do the only thing we can to honor her. Use our words to talk about her. And in doing so, keep her alive with and within our breaths, our hearts, our minds, and our souls. Marilyn is missed. The world feels smaller without her. The least we can do is reflect and remember her together. We have a number of people who were close to her, who are in a far better position to speak those words than I. So we turn now first to Bob.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for your kind words and leading us. This is very difficult for me. I'm sitting here in front. I've been in this room several times, and sitting there with you, and I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe that Marilyn's not here. She was an amazing woman, and I was so fortunate to spend almost 10 years with her, doing so much. I mean, we traveled. She met probably all of you, and she's cousins to you and Sandy and Janet, Pinky, over here. Marilyn named Pinky, the youngest sister. She gave her the nickname Pinky, and it stuck with Marilyn. So I'm going to have to, somewhere along the way, change my own thinking that Janet. But yeah, I can't believe this. So first of all, to those of you here in the chapel and online, and those who couldn't join us today, I just want to thank you wholeheartedly for your thoughts and your concerns for me, and mostly your love for Marilyn and me. Your hugs this week, your hugs virtually or in person, they meant so much to me. It's held me together to know that you knew Marilyn and just embraced her. So I put together like a little history. So many Mays ago, May as in the month of May, merry month, I posted a photo online, and this was before Swipe. It wasn't that long ago, but before Swipe on a dating site, I'm shown, the photo I posted shows me speaking at Drew and Sophie's rehearsal dinner. And I was, looking dapper, and I had my notes and a very, very prominent black eye. So accidents and injuries find me. But underneath the photo, there was a note. I found this, the email, not the email, but the website, and that Marilyn kept this stuff. It was I can't believe I found it, because finding stuff was very difficult. Anyway, underneath the photo, I mentioned that there was a backstory to my black eye, and Marilyn bit the bait and reached out to me. And she said in her note, "Okay, I'll bite. What the heck is this?" Yeah. Without that black eye, the chances that our paths would never have crossed. And when we were talking, Bruce mentioned this. So when we were talking, our maxim, that I realized what our maxim was throughout our wonderful life together, it was all's well that ends well. And that fits because we've used this way too many times. I'd come home and, I'd bloodied or whatever it is, my leg fell off of my knee, and Marilyn was there. She was there. So on May 26th of the year that we met, the planets aligned. I was writing this, and I was, I thought they aligned. They things came together. We met for dinner that night at this health club I belonged to, and we walked to the restaurant side by side. Me in my pink shirt. Notice this, which is why I'm wearing this, because this is these shirts, and Marilyn in something edgy, because Marilyn always wore something edgy. We talked about our lives, and just surprisingly how they intertwined. She's talking about people, and I'm relating a story, and we're talking about the same people. Somehow our lives crossed each other. We walked into the restaurant side by side. Marilyn, as we talked about our lives, on disparate levels, we chatted, we laughed, so much so that the manager had to walk over and kindly request that we settle our check because we were the last patrons in the restaurant. And then, so we walked out, first arm in arm, then hand in hand, and then our hands encircling each other's waist. And before the end of the year, Marilyn and I were living together. One of our favorite songs is Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. The refrain of that song is haunting. And The rest of the lyrics tells somebody else's story. So, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Hold on. And I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh, Lord. So, that is true. It's so true. We were two halves of the same whole. We read the same authors, listened to the same music, except she didn't care for boogie woogie or Celtic. Most lunches and evenings, we enjoyed meals together at home. She did the majority of the cooking. She was incredible. I did my fair share. But what she found was a recipe, and she knew in that recipe to add a pinch of this and a drizzle of that, so that it was the food. I can't believe just how well we ate and how much fun we had. And she would reach perfection cooking gumbo or Asian. Whatever it was exceptional. I also made lunches or dinners very well, I might add. I wrote this, so give me the benefit, please. But if the recipe didn't call while I'm cooking for a pinch or a drizzle, it wasn't supposed to be incorporated in the dish. She was always referencing cookbooks. Every time we were sitting down, there was a book open to something. And frankly, I caught the habit because I get emails with recipes virtually every day, and I save them, and I make them. But now I'm making them for one. Her sense of style, whether it presented itself in what she wore or the countertop or cabinet colors when we remodeled, was real. Her sense of style was we collaborated and decided on not all, but many things together. We decided on our condo, and we bought furniture and the placement of everything, and how art should be hung and with which pieces that worked well together. We trusted each other, but she had the eye, and she also had the right of veto. So Marilyn's style and clothing was edgy. She wore it well. Several years ago, she walked into Peruvian Connection on Armitage. Hi, Erica. The sign in the window said they were looking for an experienced salesperson. She already had owned several pieces from the store, which mirrored her style. She left, but when she left for work, the accessories in what she wore, it wasn't always Peruvian Connection, Erica. Wasn't always Peruvian Connection, but it was so together. And she had pins and pendants of all sorts, and she would wear those. She every day would stop and ask my opinion, because I also had some veto power, but she trusted me. She trusted my taste, she was just beautiful. She was a beautiful lady. And when I dressed up, I ran everything by her, and she noticed the defects or perfection. As a couple, we laughed so much. Her malapropisms had me on the floor more than once. Her sisters, Pinky and Sandy, they had the same talent. I ran into some of your stuff, Pinky. She would write, put a note, the cat's toed snails needed cutting. You know? And we'd pass by each other inside the condo, walking down the hall, but there was always a touch or a kiss or, just passing. Walking outside, we held hands. She was an editor and a writer. Azul, I don't know if she's here, but one time, there she is. She was over, and she's sitting on the floor, and she found in a bookcase a book that she read as a child, and she was unaware that the author of that book was Marilyn Morrill, Marilyn's maiden name, who was just sitting across from her. And we were just rolling. So I'm going to wrap up. In my toast to Marilyn at our wedding, I ended it with, "You are the woman who still turns my head, still the wittiest, most sarcastic, and certainly the smartest person I know, the woman who is my wife. I love you." Thank you. I need it.
Janet? You're speaking? Oh, I got to change? We turn now to Susan Hamilton, a longtime friend from the days of Wisconsin.
We are here today to celebrate Marilyn's life and what a life she led. Each of us has our own special memories. I have many, but I will share only a few. My name is Susan Hamilton, or as Marilyn used to call me, a long time and far away Solomon. My daughter Emily and I both arrived. Emily, okay? No. Hold my daughter. Hold my baby. Emily and I both were lucky to, I'm sorry, I lost my place. My daughter Emily and I are both lucky to have had Marilyn as our friend. Marilyn and I became instant friends in 1962 when we both arrived at the University of Wisconsin. She is a junior transfer student from Boston, and I, as a freshman from Connecticut. She was shy. I was not. I, as Bob said, she was a writer, and I will quote from one of her stories. A friendly, blonde, normal-looking girl was walking toward me. She was wandering because she would do almost anything to escape her assigned freshman roommate. She was Sue Solomon from West Hartford, the only other New Englander in the dorm, although she really had more of a New York sensibility. She and we introduced ourselves and became instant friends. Fast forward to 2007. Until then, Emily talked about Marilyn as Mom's closest friend and enjoyed spending time with us. By 2007, Marilyn and Emily had forged a friendship of their own. We three took some pretty remarkable trips together. Our first trip was to San Miguel in 2007. In 2019, Marilyn took Emily and me to Madrid to celebrate my 75th birthday. What a special gift that was. Our love for seeing beautiful places and things, eating great food, and shopping made us perfect travel companions. An extra perk was that Emily speaks fluent Spanish. Our trip to Oaxaca a year ago showed Emily and me another side of Marilyn. 3 hours, she was brave. 3 hours after we arrived, I fell and broke my hip. I had my hip replaced in a tiny hospital in Oaxaca. Marilyn and Emily spent some time at the hospital. No one spoke English there. Emily was the translator. When they weren't with me, I was happy that they were able to experience the magic of Oaxaca. Emily and Marilyn came to the hospital the day before we were to fly back. Emily needed to leave the hospital to pay the bill, another story in itself. Marilyn stayed with me. A bit of time elapsed. Emily needed Marilyn to pay part of the bill because Emily's credit card company would only allow her to pay $2,000 of a $6,000 bill. Marilyn, who spoke no Spanish, hopped into a cab, was driven to a part of Oaxaca where she'd never seen, and did what she needed to do. Looking back on that experience, I believe that Marilyn was amazingly brave. My memories of Marilyn span nearly a lifetime. The shy college kid turned out to be a witty, compassionate, humorous, and talented and generous woman. She will always have a big place in her hearts. I will miss her fiercely.
Ann Dunphy.
I can do it. I'm determined, like my cousin Marilyn. This is hard. I think I'm the person in the room who has known Marilyn the longest. Oh, can you hear? Yeah. Tell me if you can hear me. Good. We go way back. We met living across the street from one another in Roxbury, which is part of Boston. Our early acquaintance formed while side by side in our carriages pushed by our mothers. There are photos of that. Do you have some, Sandy and Janet? Good. I read once that extremely smart people regularly exhibit 10 traits. I witnessed these traits in Marilyn from the moment we both realized that we'd be as sisters in life. We both had sisters, but we had this special bond, friendship, and sisterhood. I was 6 months old. She was 6 months old when I was born. She was born in March, I was born in September, so it's a long time ago. So the traits that I referenced are highly adaptable, Marilyn, understanding what she didn't know, which I loved because she never pretended that she knew things, or if she had to, she was really good at it. Insatiable curiosity about everything, always reading, open-minded about everything, except some politics. She and I were on the same team. She likes her own company, and I truly admire that in her and people in general. She had a high sense of self-control. Funny? Funny, yes. Sensitive to other people's experiences, and always, always thinking creatively. Okay, turn the page. If we celebrate anything about Marilyn, for me, it is the joy of these amazing aspects of her with others for these past 80 years. Can you imagine 80 years? Some of the years we don't remember all that well, but Marilyn is my friend, my cousin, my confidant. My daughter's making me cry. My first best friend, who we will always remember in some way sharing these traits she possessed in such abundance. I think you'll all agree with that, right? That's who she was, plus the fashion element. When Marilyn and I were 5, we attended the Alda Morova School of Dance in Dorchester. Did you too, Sandy? You were spared. You were spared. While enthusiastic, it became abundantly clear early on that our dance careers would peak in the annual Nutcracker. We did it for a few years in a row. We weren't that good. We thought we were, of course. As the tall one, always open-minded and highly adaptable, Marilyn was assigned the role of the boy at the Christmas Eve party. We came marching in to the party together, and I, given my stature, which hasn't changed, played the young girl. Well, I don't look that young anymore, but I was the girl, she was the boy. No, that wouldn't happen these days. They'd probably switch it around to be more politically correct, et cetera, but that's who we were. We had cute little costumes. We enthusiastically employed our ballet skills. Funny? We were funny. Recently, Marilyn and I shared the old black and whites of the landmark ballet career. Marilyn remarked in her witty, always dry humor, "We were so cute." I think we were, actually. Although, perhaps it was a creative interpretation. Creative she was. When our dads, shapers of the greatest generation, returned from active duty, Marilyn and I moved to the next phase of our lives, all the way up to Dorchester. But we did not stray far from one another, living in the same two-family home. We were down, she was up, you were up. Janet, you came to Quincy, right? You were born in Quincy?
No, I think we moved to Quincy when I was about 1.
Okay. Was it crowded in this two-family home? Yeah. Rules to be skirted. We were good at skirting rules. Opinions expressed with passion, always. Sometimes we wrote them down. Sometimes we wrote books. That might have been the start of her writing career. I never advanced, but we had some good books. We took everybody over the coals. Gossip and giggle. This is a funny story, I think. Gossip and giggle about Arnie Clayton, the boy across the street. His father was a famous DJ in Boston. It was a song, the Arnie Clayton Show. Neighborhoods roamed, friendships formed for life in that neighborhood in Dorchester. It's still there. And relatively recently, when Marilyn came to Boston for a visit, we took a ride back to our old neighborhoods. We went to Roxbury, we went to Dorchester, we went to Quincy, and we laughed and we cried and giggled and reminisced. Living back in those days and living our lives at the time were a joyous portrait of the times themselves, very different from now. This early rendition of Upstairs, Downstairs fueled our formative years. There was certainly a lot we didn't know back then, although you couldn't have told us that. But we chased the answers together daily. So many memories, so many secrets shared. I do remember some of those. Some are hazy, some are better forgotten. Roxbury, Dorchester, and of course later Quincy, all living together nearby. We never strayed, we never moved far away. The good news is that as time goes by, the details of all this become less important. What is most important are the connections. That's what matters. We had a neighbor in Dorchester. This is my pearl necklace story. Her name was Annette. Nice lady, I guess, but Marilyn and I, she was one of the people we took over the coals. She never took her pearls off. She always had a strand of pearls on. It could be 8 a.m., it could be 8 p.m., it could be noon. You remember her. So we dubbed her Pearls Around Her Neck. So anytime I think of pearls, I think of Annette, also known as Pearls Around Her Neck. Marilyn and I had very long phone conversations when I'm fast forwarding, we're distant from each other. She lived in Chicago, I lived in Boston. We came to visit here, she came to Boston. But the phone conversations, I didn't know it would be the last, but it was. The last phone conversation that we had clocked in at over 2 hours. And what did we talk about? I don't know. Good stuff. Gossip. We haven't changed that much. We always loved to visit each other as well, so there was always travel in both directions, to Chicago or to Boston. We may have snuck in some clothes shopping along the way. Right, Erica? And sometimes we spent a lot of time doing the clothes shopping. And Marilyn was the leader because she always advised as to what I should be wearing, because she was the queen of fashion, truly. The queen of lots of things, but the queen of fashion. Marilyn loved, not necessarily in this order, family, friends, cooking, fashion, antiquing, and cats. She loved her cats. And while she could not keep score at a baseball game, I can, she could always be counted on to join me, probably for the beers and sunshine, as we did last summer at Wrigley. Memories of those times are so abundant in her home that she loved sharing with Bob. She will be missed by Phoebe Louise, the most recent queen of the cats, roaming the halls. Phoebe has been left in the care of Bob, and he will do a great job. I think he's the first cat that you ever cared about and cared for. She loved you, loves you, I'm sure. I'm so happy that Marilyn and Bob went on their European adventure this year. Marilyn loved, both of you were not in the pink of health at the time, speaking of pink. Marilyn got to visit her favorite city of Paris one more time. I'm also really happy, thrilled that you all, her family, the Perlman girls, and Katie and Max were in Chicago for Christmas this year. And I chatted with Marilyn about that, and she said she even did some of the cooking. And that was December. Wasn't so long ago. Some years ago, after not seeing each other for a long time, I was wandering out of my office in Boston when lo and behold, there stood Marilyn and Janet, her sister, leaning on a mailbox right outside my office, smiling. There had been no plan to meet. We had no idea. They didn't know where I worked. I didn't know they were in town. It was pure chance. I thought it was pure chance. Marilyn thought that it was the spirit of my mother, whom she loved. You did too.
No, but I knew that she did.
Yeah, she really did. We're all one big family. And my mother, Millie, was watching over us all. And it was just meant to be that we would meet at that mailbox. I never went out in the middle of the day to mail letters when I was working there. Just happened. It might have been. It might have been. She had magical powers, but nevertheless, we all were there. These have been 80 years to cherish. Wow. Wonderful, multi-talented Marilyn, amazing human being. We will miss you, Marilyn. May your memory be a blessing for us all. Sorry, I'm short and slow. They were not traits of Marilyn's. I got it. I'm good. Thank you. Yep, I'm good with it.
Bonnie Callan.
Okay. First, I was so, it was so exciting to hear about Marilyn before I knew her, because I've only known her for about 10 years when she was introduced to me by Bob. So it was just nice to hear other memories and histories. When Bob asked me to say a few words at Marilyn's service, I was honored to have been given that opportunity to share a little bit about the last 10 years of knowing Marilyn. I was introduced to Marilyn along with, I'll call it the group, about 10 years ago. I believe it was at one of our many gatherings in Michigan over the summers. The group consisted of friendships over many, many years, like since college. I can't even do the math about how many years that has been. And some of us have been in this friendship group for only 30 or 40 years. So imagine being introduced as a new member. Our group is very extremely welcoming, but imagine how intimidating this might have been for a new person. But Marilyn entered into this new group of friends seamlessly and with grace. We were all thrilled to see how happy Marilyn and Bob were to have found love and happiness with each other. What a difference, really, what a difference her presence made on Bob. Seeing Bob so happy made all of us feel so happy and blessed. Marilyn and I would meet for lunch, like a 2 or 3 or 4 hour lunch. We try to do it once a month when possible because she lived in the city, I lived in a suburb, so we had to meet halfway. And we made sure that we did that. When we were there, we would share bits and pieces of our past life and of our present life. I loved Marilyn, but I also really liked her. She was grounded. She knew who she was. She was respectful of others. She was private, but not aloof. And she had a calmness about her. And I really saw and admired her inner personal strengths. I'm so grateful that I did have the opportunity to see and talk with her, just a few weeks before her untimely death. When I was there, I think it was the rehab place, she told me she was not afraid to die. She had accepted her life and her death when it would come. She said she had no regrets, other than she would have wanted to travel more. And actually, Marilyn and I had planned to travel to be on a cruise down the coast of South America, but obviously that got changed, and we were looking forward to that trip next year. She said she was so happy to have had the last number of years with Bob and their new life. I want to close my words by reading a poem by an author and poet, Marilyn Morrill. Her goal in writing this poem, and my goal in reading this poem, is for a memory, and in this case, Marilyn's memory, to be applied to make the world a better place, which is what Marilyn would have wanted. As I read this poem, I really want all of you to think of Marilyn's voice talking to all of us. Poem by Marilyn Morrill. When I die, give what's left of me to children. And if you need to cry, cry for your brothers and sisters walking the street beside you. When you need me, put your arm around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes, not on your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. What I think I'd like, if you can all, please reach out, touch someone near to you, as Marilyn would have wanted. Thank you.
Carol Lukey. Carol?
Hello, I'm Carol Lukey. I'm a member of the group and thought I was going to take it upon myself to speak for the group, but I think Bonnie pretty much said everything I was thinking. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the group and Marilyn coming in. We formed, what was it, about 50 years ago? I think it was like in the 1970s. We began to come together. In our heyday, we had 17 members in our group, which is really something to last all these years. Also, we had, amongst our 17 adults, we had 7 children. All of the members of our group who are still living, all of those children are here today. Some of them from as far away as California and New York and Washington. We all came because we all love Bob. We love Bob so much. We were so thrilled, delighted when Bob found love with Marilyn. It was obvious quickly. It was pervasive. He loved her. We loved her. We welcomed her into our group. And so I'm not going to take a whole lot of time repeating all the wonderful things that people have said about Marilyn. I didn't know her as well as her sisters and her cousin. I only met her 10 years ago. But she was wonderful. Bob, we love you. And we want to say, I'm taking it upon myself to say this, that even though we're very, very sad that Marilyn is gone from the group, I just want you to know that we're still all here and will be always here for you.
Melanie.
Hi, as Rabbi said, I'm Melanie, and I am Bob's sister-in-law. And Marilyn and I used to laugh. It's like, well, what does that make us? So we decided on sister-in-laws. We were sister-in-laws. Bob, thank you so much for bringing Marilyn into our lives. My husband, Andy, my kids, Aaron and Jason. We'd often spend holidays, birthdays, just dinners, just hanging out. And Bob, you would cut the brisket, which was pretty good. You'd help us. No, or the dishes. You'd do the dishes. So you keep coming, okay? We loved Marilyn's humor. I'm going to be repeating stuff, but I'll make it short. Her humor, her laugh, so much her intelligence, and, as we all said, her great taste. I love the word edgy that you used, Bob. In her clothes, her art, her collections, and then we have to agree in men, wouldn't you say? So there you go. There were so many people that were important to her in her life, her family, who I haven't really met, but always showing us photos of Pinky and Sandy and telling stories and her memories of growing up. Her friends, Susan and Emily, I'm so excited to meet you on better occasions, hopefully. I love the stories of your travels, and it's nice to know you went to Wisconsin too, so there you go. New friends, as Bob mentioned, from Peruvian connections, the staff, the customers, became very close to both of them. And even my friends got to meet Marilyn one time, and they're like, oh, she's so cool. We really should do something together. It's like, yeah, we should. So just for all of us to remember, just do it. Don't say you're going to have lunch or we should do that. Just do it, because you never know when you won't be able to. But Marilyn and I did have lunch together, but not my friends. Bob and Marilyn shared so much, that amazing home, their travels. As we mentioned, Phoebe the cat, theater, jigsaw puzzles, we can't forget that. And Marilyn would bring me all her jigsaw puzzles that she did, but the last bunch, I think Phoebe had a couple of the pieces because they were little, and one of them's missing. We need to talk. One of them's missing, and that's Aaron's favorite, so we'll figure something out. And they just took such good care of each other. My husband and I, Andy, were able to visit her a few weeks ago, and of course, her hair was beautiful. She's like, look, I don't have any gray hair. So I hurried and covered up my hair so she wouldn't see. Her complexion, beautiful. She wasn't happy with her swollen legs, so they were up on the bed. We just kind of covered it with a blanket and didn't want to look at that. The last story that I want to tell is, and some of you may know it, but it's funny. She lived either, Bob, I don't know if it was Lincoln Park or Old Town, but she'd tell us that she had a roommate, female roommate, and of course, they were both, thin and cute and young. And Marilyn said they called her skinny legs. They said she had very skinny legs. But the people who said that, I'm messing up my little notes here, there were a couple guys who hung out on the corner near where where the girls lived, and they're the ones who called them skinny legs. And the neighborhood was a little iffy, so they would walk both Marilyn and her roommate to their apartment to make sure that she was safe. So just everyone, as you could see, everyone loved Marilyn. Just for your knowledge, this person, it ends up who helped them cross the street and get home safe. Google this guy. It's Jose Chacha Jimenez. And he was ended up becoming a founder of a street gang called the Young Lords Organization. So he ended up being this amazing guy. It's a great story, probably because of Marilyn, I don't know. But it's not Jose Jimenez, the actor, whatever. It's Jose Chacha Jimenez. Seriously, look him up. In conclusion, Bob, thank you for bringing Marilyn into our lives. We loved her, we love you, and we are always here for you. And Marilyn, you will be dearly missed. Thank you.
Sleep well, Marilyn. Your life was a story to be told. Your words were not lost on us. And we will think of you with the words we speak, with the breaths we take, and with the memories of the times we had with you. You are a gift. Amen. If you are able, I ask that you please rise. El melei rachamim, shochem b'romim, hamsei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashechina, im kedoshim utoharim kezahar hakiyam azirim. Et nishmat yikaratnu shalcha le'olama barachamim yastireha b'seiter knefav le'olamim v'yitzror hachayim et nishmata Adonai hu nachalata V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava. V'nomar amen. Compassionate Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our beloved Marilyn, who has entered eternity. O one of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. That is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. The words of mourners Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah. V'alma divrach reute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agalav v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit roman v'yit naseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shmei dekudsha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated.
Shiva will be observed here at the funeral home in our other chapel immediately following the service today until 5:30 this evening. And the family has asked for memorial contributions to the Scleroderma Research Foundation or Doctors Without Borders, and all this information is listed in the service folder you received. If you did not receive one, they are available as you exit. And for those of you viewing online, all this information is online as well. I'll ask everyone to please rise as the family exits the chapel into the Shiva room.